It's 6 o'clock in the evening on Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees to order. Mr. Baker, would you please call the attendance roll?
Mr. Rajagopal.
Here.
Mr. Unger.
Here.
Mr. Waller.
Here.
Mr. Mills, please address the
Good evening,
trustees.
Mr. Unger, Board of Trustees. I've spoken to each individually about a tragedy that occurred in the township today. This morning we lost an employee. He passed away. He was on duty. His name is Jason Haynes. He's a great man. Jason's worked here for 18 years. He has 2 kids. And I think that you guys can understand that his family is heartbroken. His work family is heartbroken. We are all, it was a devastating event that occurred this morning, and we're all sad, and it is, we are less for it, for losing him. And out of respect for his family, and frankly, I just think it's the right thing to do to postpone any official action to the greatest extent possible tonight. I think that these items that were on the special meeting agenda, they can wait. I'm not sure if we can get it on the, if you guys want to have a special meeting next Tuesday. I'm not sure how that aligns with what the funeral arrangements are going to be. My recommendation would be to figure out a way to get it maybe on the regular agenda on the 8th or something. I guess my point here is that as it relates to the business on the special meeting agenda, if we could table all business to a future meeting and then adjourn the special meeting, I can discuss the particulars of the situation with you in executive session. So I guess my recommendation would be table the business for the special meeting tonight and adjourn the special meeting, open the regular meeting, and enter into executive session so that I can brief you on personnel and employment issues pursuant to Higher Revised Code 121.22G1, and then we can talk about some other issues in executive session also under the other 121.22 sections. Then we can come out of executive session by 7 p.m. tonight, as is posted on the agenda, and discuss how you want to handle the business of the regular meeting. There are a few time-sensitive issues that you would be considering tonight. Probably my recommendation would be to address the time-sensitive issues and then adjourn the table the rest of the items to the 8th, and move forward that way. That would be my recommendation on how to move forward.
I move the motion to postpone what Jeff Mills suggested because of the tragedy happened in our township and our own employee, and it's mourning stage.
Yeah.
And we are.
And I will second, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I will second Roger's motion to table the agenda, the entire agenda of the special meeting. So it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and again, my condolences to the family and just an awful tragedy. From a practical point of view, I just want to make sure Mr. Salmon's with us, that we're aligned to, if we're playing according to Hoyle with Ohio Revised Code, just to be on the record that we are.
I think as long as you table, you're more than able to table what's on the agenda today. I would just request that you set it for a particular date.
September 8th.
Yeah, and as we don't know what the funeral arrangements are, and as it involves our big, wide, extended Colerain family, as soon as you find out those arrangements, Jeff Mills, then you can report individually to us and
Yes, sir.
figure that out. Other than that, it would be September 8th, but I would think in the next few days we would know that. And I would certainly like to extend my sympathy to the family and to all of Jason's co-workers. It's a terrible, tragic thing to have something come about so unexpectedly and suddenly. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, on behalf of Township and behalf of our Colerain citizens, residents, the community, We extend our sympathy, condolence to the family, and also the fellow employees, and may God be with them in this during the time of very hardship.
Amen. Mr. Baker, would you please call for a vote on tabling the agenda of the special meeting of the Board of Trustees?
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
So with all the agenda items of the special meeting tabled, the last item on the special meeting of the Board of Trustees is adjournment, and I will make a motion that we would adjourn the special meeting of the Board of Trustees.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote on adjournment of the special meeting of the Board of Trustees.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
The special meeting of the Board of Trustees is adjourned at 6:05 PM on August 25th, 2020.
Very good.
Our next, with that special meeting concluded, then we have the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of August 25th. So I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees at 6:06 PM on Tuesday, August 25th. Mr. Baker, if you would please call the attendance roll.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Just a point of parliamentary procedure before I vote. I guess this was my concern. We're all right opening the meeting at 6:50, whatever. What are we at?
6:06 PM.
6:06, even though it was advertised at 7.
Well, as long as the public is here and able to participate in the executive session, the public can't participate.
Right. Okay, well then, in that case, I vote aye.
So we'll be convening 7. Is our signature?
So the agenda right now.
Let's go ahead and call the attendance first.
Done.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say here?
I'm sorry, I said aye here.
Okay, there we go. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Mills.
So, gentlemen, the agenda that was posted shows an opening of the meeting, and then it shows at 7 p.m. that we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. And so my recommendation would now be to move to go into executive session in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the employment and compensation of public employees. And also in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G3, to discuss pending or imminent litigation with the township attorney. And also in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G4, to discuss collective bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation. And also in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G8, to consider confidential information relating to specific business strategy and to discuss negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance. My intention would be that we would complete that by the stated time of 7 p.m. When we're advertised that we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
A point of parliamentary procedure again. Yep. I think that we probably, I should have cut you off before you, I think we probably need to amend the agenda first and make a 1A to include an executive session. I don't know, Mr. Solomon, is that?
I think you can make a motion.
Yeah, I think you can make sure.
Okay, just making sure. I want to do everything according to Hoyle and say I will motion that we go into executive session based upon the exceptions of the Ohio Revised Code that you listed.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
The Board of Trustees will enter executive session at 6:09 p.m. and we should be back by 7 o'clock, which is the advertised time for the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's right.
Thank you. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees back to order. It is 7 o'clock in the evening on Tuesday, August 25th. Mr. Baker, would you please call the attendance roll?
Mr. Rajagopal?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
We have returned from executive session. Mr. Mills, is there anything to report?
No, sir.
The next item is I'd ask that you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that you remain standing. Mr. Mills was going to do our meditation this evening.
Sure. In light of the tragic events that occurred this morning with Jason Haynes, I just ask that in this moment we remember Jason and his 18 years of service. We remember his son and his daughter, who are obviously in great distress at this moment, his mom, and all those that love Jason. Jason had a lot of friends in Colerain, and there's a lot of people that are hurting tonight, and that, not the least of which are the men and women that worked with Jason and knew him from being shoulder to shoulder with him every day for 18 years. Please keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. May God rest his soul. Please be seated. The next item is approval of minutes.
Thank you, Board. I have, like to ask for the approval of the minutes of the August 11th meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion to approve the minutes from the August 11th meeting. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I think I sent you 2 or 3 typo corrections.
They were all made.
Okay. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote on approval of the August 11th minutes.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Next item, Mr. Mills.
Sure. My recommendation, as I mentioned earlier in the special meeting, Mr. Unger, Board of Trustees, is to consider those issues on the agenda that are time sensitive, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items on the agenda that are absolutely time sensitive tonight, and to table all those items that are not time sensitive. In addition, I think it's appropriate, and I would recommend that the board entertain a motion that's not on this agenda, which would be to direct the flag to be flown at half-staff for 3 days on township properties throughout the township in a period of mourning for Jason. And one other item that's not on the agenda, this is Chief Frank Cook's last meeting with us, and I believe that Chief Cook would like to say a few words. So that would be my recommendation, and I'm happy to go through each of these items if you'd like, and identify what.
I think we should table them individually, but first I would make a motion that we would amend the agenda to allow for another motion for the period of mourning. So I motion that we would amend the agenda to allow one of the trustees to introduce the motion for mourning. So I motion that we amend the agenda.
Under, I guess, new business?
Would that be appropriate?
I think amending the agenda.
Okay, I have a motion that we amend the agenda at this point in the agenda right now then, to discuss the period of mourning. But to motion to amend the agenda so we can have another motion. So I just need a motion to amend the agenda, which I've motioned, so I need a second.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded to amend the agenda. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so I want to be specific. Where do you want to put it on the agenda?
Just right now, before
Okay.
before promotion of sergeant, just after number 4,
Okay.
make it 4A.
Okay.
So Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
And then I would motion that we develop a period of mourning for Jason Haynes, and I'd like to have somebody get that seconded so we can discuss what that is.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I think your recommendation was 3 days. Not knowing the funeral plans, would it be appropriate to make it longer than that, or?
My understanding is typically a 3-day period is what is common in a situation like this. That's my understanding. Obviously I'm not very well practiced in this, thankfully.
What if we went through Saturday of this week?
Sure.
because today's Tuesday and there's likely to be something.
Yes, sir.
So I would motion that we fly the American flags that are on township property at half-staff through this Saturday, which is,
The 20, hang on. Saturday the 29th.
through Saturday, through, up through sundown on Saturday, August 29th.
Okay.
I'll second that.
That's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
It's very heartbreaking. Okay, so now that we've, sorry about that. Now that we've gotten there, so you want to go back to 5A and make it, you were going to
I recommend,
recommend tabling that?
recommend tabling 5A.
I'll motion to table item 5A on the agenda.
And I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Item 5A is a promotion of one of our officers to sergeant, so we will reschedule that for a future meeting. Is there any other discussion?
I believe, can we say that all these items will be tabled to the September 8th meeting? Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So was there any other discussion?
None.
Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Next item, a citizen's address. Were there any communications?
I received one communication about barking dogs, and my computer has, hang on just one second. Computer logged out here. Let me log back in.
Did you receive one, Matt?
I forwarded to Mr. Mills, and I think that's probably, or is that what you're pulling up now?
And then there was the one that you forwarded. Yep. So there's two that we've received.
Do you have it so you could read the one and then I'll have Jeff read the other?
No, I do not. That's why I forwarded. My printer is broken.
Sure. Here, let me get that one then. So,
You want to read it for the next meeting? Address?
here's the one.
Let's
Okay.
just go ahead and read them into the record so that we did it.
This one is from Mr. Chris Green. The email says, Matt, can you read this at the trustee meeting? I would like to thank all trustees and Jeff Mills for speaking at the plaque dedication for Ivy Barrage. Also, I would like to thank Bruce Hoffbauer and Chief Denny. The family was very pleased and happy with the overall dedication. The family wanted to thank Bruce Hoffbauer and Chief Denny for their speech. They said it touched them a lot and was very emotional to them, and thanks. I would like to thank everyone that attended and did speak on behalf of the Barrage family. I would also like to thank the Combat Veterans Group and the flag presentation and retirement of colors. Also, thanks to the American Legion Post 523 out of Mount Healthy for the Color Guard and Rifle Squad. And thanks to everyone that attended this ceremony for the Barrage family. Thank you, everyone. Chris Green.
Thank you, Jeff. Do you have the other one handy?
The other one is in a different email account. That's the township email account, and
And I did get an email from Jim Acton concerning an update on the, if we have any plans for the letters Colerain that are on the Colerain Avenue, the US 27 overpass over 275, so I'll answer that at the next meeting.
You got several questions too, not only that.
Right, do you have that, Raj?
I had an email. I gotta open up. You might read, it's pretty long.
If
Can we, those are the issues that you're talking about, it's long-range plans. I think we can read it next meeting. Is it okay with you?
the one from Jim Acton, okay, because we're not going to discuss any of that tonight.
It's a very detailed
Okay,
analysis.
so Jim, we did receive your email, and due to the circumstance, it will be read in full at the next meeting.
the next
Go ahead, Jeff.
the next and final one is from Charlotte.
Sorry, point of inquiry here, or information. Could I get a copy of that email? I did not get it in advance of the next meeting.
Sure.
I'll forward to Jeff.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
I got it separately.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jeff, huh? I'll forward to you.
Okay. Sometimes people flip the L and the H in my name, and it ends up in.
Yep.
But I would like to take a look at that so I could have some answers.
Sure, Matt.
Yep.
I'll
Okay.
Thanks.
We'll make sure you get it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, this last one is from Charlotte Haney, or Hain. She says, I would like to know what the ordinance is for barking dogs, what times are not allowed in the township. If you have a printout of the ordinance on barking dogs, will you please email it to me? Thank you, Charlotte Haney, and we will be happy to send that to her.
Okay, so those were our three
Yep.
emails we received from citizens address. I do not see anyone outside of the building or in the foyer. So with that, we'll move to the next item, which is administrative reports.
And at this time, I think if it would be appropriate to bring up Chief Cook for his parting words here.
This is last meeting?
Yes.
He said his last meeting was last time.
No.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
The last meeting was the last time I was going to provide an administrative report to you as far as reporting emergency incident activity. But today's tragedy should be a reminder to how precious life is. Many of us in public safety know the experience of saying good morning or hello to a coworker at the beginning of a shift or a day's work. At the next minute, that coworker has been called home. As I reflected on today's loss of Jason, it painfully reminded me of the morning of April 4th, 2008, and the evening of January 4, 2019. A message to my colleagues in the Public Services Department and all the township employees. We are public servants. Simply, we're dedicated professionals who want to achieve the public good above all else in our work. The pain you're experiencing makes us all stronger and more aware. In situations of great pain and anguish, we must realize the fragility of life, its importance, and its meaning. While pain can dampen the body, it enriches the mind over time. Many of us in fire and police know this all too well. Just know that we are here for you, and may Jason rest in peace. This evening, Board, is most likely my last opportunity as Fire Chief to address each of you as our elected officials in the Colerain Township community. In doing so, I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude, as it has been my privilege to serve the Colerain Township community for the over 35 years as a public servant in this community. I am honored to have led the dedicated and talented men and women of the Colerain Township Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Services, and I am proud of what we have achieved together. I offer my sincere appreciation to you, Mr. Unger, you, Mr. Roger Capole, and you, Mr. Wallert, and the many former elected officials, Mr. Mills, and the 4 previous township administrators. My predecessors, Fire Chiefs Corky Snyder, Bruce Smith, Deputy Chief Joe Savati, Assistant Chief Rick Niehaus, and Assistant Chief Marvin Sheets. All the present and past men and women of the Fire Department, Police Department, Public Services Department, and the Township's administrative and support staff, and most of all, the citizens of Colerain Township for providing me the opportunity, through your trust and faith in me, to be your Fire Chief. It has truly been an extraordinary experience that I will cherish for the rest of my life. In closing, I wish every citizen, business, and visitor of Colerain Township the very best. Thank you very much.
Chief, stay there. One more, I'd like to take a picture with you. We want to thank you on behalf of our township, your finest leadership. And you built this fire department one of the best in the country. And we're going to miss you. And thank you for developing the great leaders succeeding you. And you got a great passion for this community. people know that. That's gratification you are leaving with that great thankful that our community can give you. Okay, I would like to take a picture, sir. Would you? Please.
And thank you for your service, Frank. I would say that's more emotion than I've seen out of you in the 3 years. You're generally pretty stoic in all business. It's nice to see the human side of you also.
Well, you know, it's like I said, it's been a real honor and privilege to serve in this capacity and just to serve this township as a firefighter. You know, I got my start here and I ended my career here. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for the support that the boards have given us. And, you know, this fire department wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for the support that we've achieved from this community and the support that I've received as chief from my people. I certainly wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the people in the department. Certainly, you know, I've worked to become educated and trained to do this job, but it's the work that they do day in and day out in the streets that is reflective of me. So,
I'm sure you've got great things coming up, and I can't wait to see what's the next page of Frank's life. So,
Chief,
stay tuned.
Chief, just like to add that our passage here has been kind of short, but the impact that you've made on me as a leader, I think is significant. Sometimes I think people think, what are they thinking up there? And when you give your presentation, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how can I be as professional as Chief Cook? I really do. In the way that the folks at the fire department speak about you, I told it to our new chief last time, I'm like, you're going to have really big shoes to fill. And sir, it has been a pleasure, and I am just humbled to have served just a smidgen of my time with you, and I wish you all the best, man.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your service.
See you
Thank you
soon.
so much.
and Mr. Mills will be the next item on our administrative reports.
That'll conclude the administrative reports for today.
Okay, and then the next item is trustees report. Matt, did you have anything to report?
I'll just waive that until next meeting.
Sure. Raj?
I'll wait for the next meeting.
And thank you for everyone who's expressed their condolences today on our big Colerain family loss that we have had. The next item is new business.
Sure. While the first two items in public safety are not time sensitive, I believe one of those items relates to a wedding, and would the board like to?
Yes, I would like to get those first two
Okay,
passed
so-
because that's,
Okay.
I'd like to get those first two brought to the floor and see if we can.
So the first item in public safety is the motion to consider a noise resolution permit for Pebble Creek Golf Course. Oh, Chief Denny?
You're doing fine, I can stand back.
Nope, go ahead.
It's recommend consideration of a motion authorizing a permit, a noise permit of the Colerain Township noise resolution for 9998 Prechtel Road on September 26, 2020, from 7 p.m. to midnight. This is a wedding at Pebble Creek, and they're asking, out of the abundance of caution, to make sure they're not in violation of our township's noise ordinance.
I would motion that we approve that noise resolution permit for Pebble Creek Golf Course.
I'll second that.
Been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I know there's a wedding planned, and I'm sure that the bride and groom would like to know that this was passed, and that's why I've asked that this has been brought forward. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, would you please call for a vote?
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
And then would you do the next one, please?
The noise resolution as well?
Yes.
We'll do the second one as well. I recommend consideration of a motion authorizing a permit for the Colerain Township noise resolution for 5744 Springdale Road, which is Club Trio, for the following dates: October 2nd, October 3rd, October 9th, and October 10th of 2020. Club Trio already has received their blanket permit that the board allowed from May to October. The current resolution allows for 3 additional dates. Club Trio is asking for 4 additional dates. So I will leave that in the board's hands on how you'd like to proceed with.
So I will motion that we would approve the noise resolution permit for Trio Lounge. Is there 4 dates on there?
There are 4 dates on there, yes.
Okay, I would motion that we approve it for all 4. Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I spoke with the owner, and Trio, along with so many other of our restaurant and bar businesses, have just been hammered. They've lost all their second quarter revenue. The governor currently has them shutting down service at 10 o'clock at night, and I want these places to survive. And so I'd appreciate the support of my fellow trustees in extending them into October. And furthermore, I would like to look into doing that for all of them, at least for the rest of the calendar year, because it's just been so difficult with all the state mandated shutdowns. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I concur with you, Dane. Like you said, those businesses were hurt pretty bad. I think they need to recover. This gives me some time to just to survive. Thank you, Chief. Bring it up.
Was there any other discussion, Matt?
No, none for me.
Okay, Mr. Baker, with no other discussion, would you please call for a vote?
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Mr. Mills, next item.
The next item would be item C there. That is time sensitive. A motion to authorize the township administrator to sign the lease agreement with Huntington Bank. Chief?
This is our annual purchase of police cruisers, and this is part of our 5-year plan, our purchasing plan that we include in our capital budget every year. So this is a budgeted item that we have prepared since last year. Moving forward, this allows us to lease the cruisers that we need. What's particularly nice about this method of purchasing police cars, if we run into financial issues, they can be returned and the payments would stop. So when you buy the cars, you own the cars, and you lose a significant value and it's hard to resell them. This allows us, should we ever have an issue where we needed to pull back, we could send those cars back and stop the payments immediately. So I do like, number one, the ability to stretch the payments for these cars out over 5 years and use money for operational needs throughout the year, but also to have that protection should we need that moving forward.
So I'll motion to authorize the township administrator to sign a lease agreement with Huntington Bank.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
No.
I would just like to add that we do try to keep our officers in modern equipment and supply them with what they need. And here in Colerain Township, we 100% support our police department.
I'd concur on that. I just want to make it, I believe this was written, I don't know if I had a discussion with someone, maybe with Mr. Mills or Mr. Weckbacker, was written in the packet, that the price is equivalent to the Ohio
State bid
price. So, so it's just keeping it, I guess, kind of local. Or we have a relationship with Huntington, and it's been ongoing with these.
It's allowing us to purchase these or to lease these cars from Colerain Ford, which is obviously
Okay.
right here in Colerain, and we do go by state bid as well. This includes the equipment, so we're able to get all that included
Okay,
in this
great.
price. So it's a very good option for us.
I just want to make it clear to folks at home that it doesn't cost more, and we're getting it local.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
All right.
The next item is not time sensitive. Okay, so I would recommend the next item, item D, be tabled to September 8th.
Mr. President, I motion to table the purchase forensic equipment to September 8th meeting.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote on the motion to table.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
All right.
Before I step away, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Chief Cook for his years of service, and we became chiefs together pretty close in proximity, and I learned a lot from him, and he was a mentor to me as well, and he is leading one of the finest fire departments I've ever been associated with, and our relationship has gotten so much stronger just because of the man he is, and we're going to miss him a lot.
Hey, Chief, I just want to thank you for I spoke to you a few times on the problem with the Marcelana and Sturgeon, and you took a very active steps, and you know, officers there watching this. And also thank you for improving the more patrol in the west side, and people really like that. Thank you so much.
And if I could add too, I've heard from a number of residents on the east side that they're happy to see the patrols increased. And I thank you personally for the time that you spent with me kind of going through what was a pretty, I think you characterized it as one of the most violent weeks in Colerain since the 1970s or something. And I did say something about it on Facebook, and a couple people had approached me and said, you know, are you jeopardizing the investigation? You know, I want to make it clear I did run that through Mr. Mills, Mr. Wackback, the chief, on what was put, because there were so many questions. And look, the biggest variable is uncertainty. When there's uncertainty, people fill in the gaps, and sometimes when they fill in the gaps, it can be very problematic. And I applaud that you've had. I think we have what, three people or four people behind bars right now.
We have 3 right now, and we're not done.
Right.
More to come.
Right. And I know people look at that and say, well, the one was 4 weeks ago. Well, for this type of investigation in the justice system, 4 weeks is pretty fast.
Fast is better than quick.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, correct is better than quick.
Yeah, that's true. But it's still been, I mean, you still have made quick arrests in this. And thank you so much. I know that the day I was here that your guys were on fumes, man. They were doing 20-hour days, and, you know, and here I am sticking my nose and saying what's going on. And I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Thank you for asking. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Chief. Gentlemen, the next item on the agenda is a item in the public services, item A. That item is not time sensitive and can be tabled to September 8th.
Mr. President, I motion that we table the motion authorizing Township Administrator to execute contract addendum with Human Nature to September 8th meeting.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion for tabling?
None.
Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please take a vote on the motion to table.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Wallach?
Aye.
Okay, gentlemen, the next item is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. Mr. Iona?
Good evening, board members. I am bringing a resolution forward declaring nuisance and ordering abatement on the following properties: 2731 Barthus, 9970 Hollis, 2885 Hyannis, 9627 Marino, 2698 Niagara, 3408 Niagara, 9888 Norcrest, 2531 Pippin, 11568 Pippin, 10032 Regency, 11996 Wincanton, 8300 Colerain Avenue, 3084 West Galbraith, 9970 Hollis, 3108 Niagara, 9008 Orangewood, 3607 Sweetwood, 2752 Mansalona, and 6401 Colerain Avenue. And that is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement on those properties.
I will motion to approve the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement on the properties listed by Mr. Iona in the resolution.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded, which gets it to the floor. Mr. Iona, the 8300 Colerain, is that the Walgreens property?
Yes.
And then 6401 is Kroger's, affectionately known as Kroger Mount Airy. I would like to thank Laura Stobart with the Kroger Company for the actions that she took there. I drove through there at 8:15 last night, and the place is completely cleaned up. The Walgreens property, I actually think it's 3084 West Galbraith.
It is.
Is that correct?
It is. Yep.
Okay, the Walgreens property was cleaned up last Sunday, and we were able to reach the regional manager for Walgreens, and he had a somebody decided to dump a couple couches behind there, and the Walgreens property was cleaned up also quite well. In fact, Mr. Weckbach and I walked it after the new Foundation Savings Bank 130th anniversary. So what is the procedure for me to ask to have those two taken off the nuisance abatement
You
list?
can motion to amend the resolution, and then If that motion is successful, what we'll do is we'll edit the resolution and provide it to Mr. Baker, who can then put it in your box to sign tomorrow or another day.
Okay, do I have to do those addresses separately, or can I?
I think you can do it in the same.
Okay, and do you think that 3084 West Galbraith is the former Walgreens store, Mr. Weckbach? Yes. Okay, so I would motion that we amend the agenda to remove 3084 West Galbraith and 6401 Colerain from that list. So I would need a second.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded, and once again, I'd like to thank the Kroger Company for getting on it, and I'd like to thank Walgreens for stepping up and getting, especially the Walgreens one. It is so visible, and when I was up there looking at it, there's a lot of stuff that blows over from Wendy's. So I think a conversation with Wendy's about, you know, getting some of their situation under control would be helpful. So was there any other discussion on the motion to amend?
Yes, so just game me through this. What does this do, removing it? Because Kroger and Walgreens have both been serial offenders of this in my mind. It's not the first time, not the second time, it's not even the third time. If it stays on the, if it stays on this motion, what happens?
Oftentimes what happens is we run it through our process. Every property goes through our process the same way. So it gets inspected, it gets tagged, it gets re-inspected. As soon as, if it's re-inspected and it is not, in compliance, then it gets put on the trustee agenda. If the owner abates the property before our abatement team gets out there, our abatement team doesn't do anything because there's nothing to abate. The owner is, so it's then changed, the status is changed to owner abated, closed. And so it's nothing.
So when would theoretically, I know you don't have a date, but in a window, when would the abatement team go visit these properties?
The trash abatement team would be out there next Monday. Typically, we have to wait 4 days, I believe, by Ohio Revised Code, and then the same for the grass. Yeah.
Yeah, grass comes off,
And-
yeah, pretty frequently. And we send the grass to the grass contractor in advance, so they slot it in the schedule to get it done.
And if we go out there and it's abated, then it'll be removed from the.
If we go out there and abate it, then we don't do anything. They don't get assessed. The process is ended. It was declared a nuisance because in inspection 1 and inspection 2 it was a nuisance.
Yeah, so it's my tendency to want to leave them on there because I would guess by Monday we're going to have the same issue. And it's time to start holding people accountable. And if it remains clean and somebody else dumps more stuff, or if there's more trash that comes over and they fix it by the time our abatement team it'll be dropped off. But it'll be a lesson of responsibility for both of those firms.
And I would say that Walgreens and Kroger's really stepped up to the plate and got it done. And I was there at 8:15 last night, and it is cleaned up, and I couldn't be happier. And I would rather work with these businesses and just, because they're not the ones. Kroger's and Walgreens didn't dump couches and tires and trash there. It's a cultural problem where people think it's okay that there's a vacant lot, let's dump stuff there. If it was a bunch of boxes and materials from inside the Kroger store that had migrated out into the parking lot or flipped over shopping carts, it would be one thing, but it's trash that's left there by others. So, Raj, I'm going to ask for your support in pulling those two off, because it sounds to me, and we haven't voted yet, but it sounds to me like it's going to be a split vote on the motion to take those two off there.
We still on the discussions?
Yeah, we're still discussing my motion to.
I can see both trustees' points, and Matt worried about what if the people will come back and do it again, they're gonna walk away. On the other hand, also, Dane's, he said you can talk to the people, it worked. And you talk to them people, they clean it up. Maybe use that dialogue, have the people to voluntarily clean up the mess, anything like that. So I'll go that route. Let's talk to them and see how that works. If it doesn't work, we'll put them back in the abatement list.
Well, and when the vote comes, Raj, if you would support that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Through the course of this, We've developed some good contacts with Walgreens, and then at Kroger's, you have Laura Stobart and Lynn Howitz and Jeff Kruger and Lisa Ammons and Amy McCormick. And in the big giant picture of things, we need to help get that property redeveloped, and I think that'd be a big first step in saying, hey, Colerain Township will work with, you've worked with us, Colerain Township will work with you, help us find the right business to go into that building, rather than have an adversarial relationship with them where we'd be starting off on that foot rather than the good foot that we're on. So was there any other discussion
Yes.
on my motion to amend?
Yes, I'll respectfully disagree with both of you on this, because I think the adversarial relationship occurred when we called them multiple times to clean this up. To say that they work with us to the point where we have to call them every single time. And I think that forcing people to do the right thing shouldn't be done. I'm of strong belief that we need to hold these folks accountable. If Mr. Iona dumped a couch in my front yard, who would have to clean it up? I would, right? My property would be abated for that. And the businesses that come here need to take a similar responsibility. And I know that it sounds like I'll probably lose this vote, but I'll just point out that they haven't been babes in the woods with this. We have contacted them multiple times to deal with this. And it's been an ongoing issue. That's why they're on the abatement list. They didn't get on the abatement list for the first strike or the second strike. But, I respect the opinion on one vote, and I respect the opinions of both Mr. Rajagopal and Mr. Unger, and I will leave it at that.
Was there any other discussion on my motion to amend?
So the amend is to put.
To take those two off the list?
Off the list.
Because when our guy shows up, they're likely not going to find anything.
I'll say yes, off the list.
Somebody could be dumping a couch in my yard right now since they're watching us on TV and know that I'm sitting here. And it wouldn't be my fault that it was there, but I have trash service that comes
Yeah,
every
we got,
Friday.
we're still in the dialogue sessions, and I think we are successful dealing with them. They clean it up. Hopefully it'll work. We got time. So I would say.
Well, let's go.
Are we taking
So
a
if
vote
that's the
now?
end of the discussion.
End of the discussion.
Okay, so Mr. Baker, please call for a vote on the motion to amend.
Mr. Rajagopal?
No,
So you don't want to amend?
you mean.
You just said during the
Wait,
discussion,
I gotta-
during the discussion, you said yes, you would amend and pull those two off, but you
Oh,
don't
pull
want
that
to.
out, right, okay.
You
That's
want
that's
to pull
what I-
those two off?
yeah, pull the
So
two
call
off.
for
Okay,
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Rajagopal's vote.
Okay, I'm sorry, pull that. Yeah, I'm gonna retrieve that, and I'm gonna say yes to pull them off. Okay?
Okay, so Raj,
Mr. Unger?
yes?
Mr. Waller?
No.
So the motion is amended, and now for the rest of the list, was there any other discussion? Hearing none, please call for a vote on the rest of the list with those two amendments. With those two taken off.
A motion, no, the motion was already made.
The motion was already on the floor.
Yep. So the motion was made.
We need a motion to approve
Not-
it
Yeah, I
as
think
amended,
that was amended. Okay, now there's a motion to move.
to approve
To
the amended
approve the
resolution.
amended resolution.
Matt had motioned to approve the whole thing, and Raj had seconded, and then we went into amending it, which we just resolved, and now we're voting on the amended list.
We have to motion,
No, it's already been motioned, I believe. I believe that it was motioned to bring the
Whole list to the floor.
the whole list to the floor. Then there was a subsidiary motion to amend that resolution. That has carried, and so now we have an amended resolution that has already been brought to the floor.
Yes.
who motioned to bring that to the floor, the amended
You
resolution?
did, and then he seconded.
I second it.
No, there needs to be another step. The amended resolution has to be introduced.
I think it's fine. I think you're ready, it's ready for the vote.
Would you
All right?
prefer that I did that?
Yes, absolutely.
If it satisfies trustee, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like the motion to bring the whole thing to the floor?
But no, because I'm going to vote no on it now.
Okay, okay. I motion that we approve the list as amended. So I need a second to get it to the floor.
I second it.
There we go.
So now there's a motion on the floor.
Now, wait a minute. We are going back to original abatement.
We're doing the
Motion.
amended motion with the Kroger property and the Walgreens property brought off, taken off.
Taken off,
So we'll abate everything except those two.
right.
Was there, okay, so you've seconded. So it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any other discussion on that?
None.
None. Matt?
No, I'm happy now. Yeah.
Okay, well, as long as you're happy. Please call for a vote, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
No.
Okay,
Thank you, trustees.
Thank you.
thank you, Mike.
The next
Mr.
item on the
Mr.
agenda, the
Mills.
next two items are time sensitive. The next one is a resolution establishing a TIF district. The recommendation from staff is to approve a resolution creating a TIF area in the Northridge Development site. This is it's been referred to in the past as the Sovereign Road TIF. We're talking about parcel 510-0062-0230-00. The establishment of the TIF area will provide the resources necessary to aid in the construction of public infrastructure associated with the TIF district, which includes the construction of a bridge connecting the TIF district to Pippin Road per a subsequent developer agreement. So there is an additional step here where this is the legislation that creates the district. Subsequent to this, if it is successful, we will negotiate a developer agreement with the developer that outlines the responsibilities of the developer and the responsibilities of us, and additionally the responsibilities of a third party, which is the home builder. So that will come back to the board at a future time.
All right. During that time, that's what we discuss about what the community wants, the residents live around there, that's the second stage.
So yeah, so the vote that you're taking tonight establishes the district, but doesn't commit anyone to anything. The next step is to negotiate with the developer and the home builder to identify, what the development agreement looks like.
And that would come back for another vote.
Yes, sir.
I will motion that we establish a tax increment financing district on the parcels as you have described.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
And this TIF is 30 years,
Yes, sir.
right? I have some residents concern why it's not 10 years. Would you explain?
Sure. There's two different ways to do TIFs. I mean, I guess there's a lot of different ways, but two primary ways. One is referred to as a 10-year 25-75 TIF, which means that it's in effect for 10 years. The school district gets 25% of the revenue for those 10 years, and the township gets 75% of the revenue for those 10 years. If you do anything beyond 10 years, then you have to have the buy-in of the school district, and that's actually the next item on the agenda. So the school district has agreed that to allow us to extend the duration of the TIF for 30 years. What that does is it gives us greater negotiating ability with the developer. It increases the benefit to the township because we're collecting over a longer period of time. So those are typically the two things that you see as a 30-year time horizon or a 10-year time horizon.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I would just like to add that I know that in the years leading up to when I started here, the trustees handled things differently, and there used to be a lot of consternation from the school district about the trustees never ever include us in anything. And I'd like to point out, with Matt here, and then Raj and I started on the same day. I would say, Raj, we have sat down with the school district on every one of these since then, and hopefully our friends over on the school board realize that, because I know the township heard a lot from them in the past about the trustees don't cooperate with the school board, and this is a great example of where we are keeping the public school district whole on these matters. So was there any other discussion?
Yes, unfortunately, I have a number of points that I want to make for the record with regard to this, things I've seen and heard. And I first want to start with the idea of the township having some form of legal ability to stop a connection. I talked to Mr. Wackback, I talked to Mr. Mills, I talked to two of our Ohio State legislators, members of the Ohio House. I talked to an Ohio senator. I got a legal opinion from Mr. Solomon, and I just want to go over a couple of those things to clear up, I think, what are some misconceptions in the community. And Mr. Solomon, please correct me if anything is wrong or has changed. I doubt it has changed. But since the 1970s, or maybe even earlier, townships no longer own the roads. This is done by the county. And this is governed under ORC 5555, Section 02. And even if you look under the county commissioner handbook, the quote is, "The township trustees have no power, either statutory or by common law, to establish or vacate roads on streets." In 5502, the Board of County Commissioners may construct a connecting road between old and new locations. So there's ORC code, there's Hamilton County code, the rules and regulations of Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission for plats and subdivisions, which a number of people brought to me on one of my first visits to Sovereign, allow a street stub. The Planning Commission, once it's approved in the preliminary subdivision plans, that extension of the street stub is allowed at that point, and that has been done, for what I understand, for the first kind of go through with the rental. And in that same Hamilton County thing, the section 12 talks about the criteria for existing stubs are permitted if it provides adjacent landlocked parcels with access. And that's what the developer is basing this on. And it became clear to me, and I'll add that the other thing that legally was brought up is the potential is it a taking claim? People that buy land have rights that come with that land. And property rights are very important in the basis. I think all of our rights come from property rights. And Mr. Solomon talked about how, look, even if we had some type of statutory or common law ability to stop this, it could open us up for a taking lawsuit, is that we somehow interfered with that person's property. So there's a lot of information that we could just wave a wand and make it stop. It's not the case. So from that, as we talked to the developers separately, I think that it became kind of clear to us that single-family homes maybe were a better way to go, and that would involve a TIF. And I just want to give you, and I looked this up today on Dusty Rhodes' site. So the total taxes paid for this, it's 30.7 acres, I think. Last year was $2,598. Approximately $690 a year to the school district, $270 a year to the township. So that's as it sits unimproved. With multifamily, we could bring that total up to maybe $130,000 a year. With the TIF, in single family, we're looking to bring that up to net to township over that time period would be over $2 million as opposed to the $2,000 that it is now. In terms of protecting, and these are the last points I make, I apologize, but I want to make sure that this is clear to folks. Mr. Mills indicated that there would be a developer agreement, which is a little bit complicated because it's a tripartite agreement now with three. That is, as Mr. Unger pointed out, subject to trustee approval, that developer agreement. And if you look at the resolution, it brings up the point that there would be no more spent in any year than is brought in. So it's the township is protected. Let's say that the economy tanks and they get 2 houses built and that's all they do. We have a protection built in with that. And I think that, and I've indicated to Mr. Mills kind of the parameters that I would like to see with, with the developer agreement, to include things like traffic calming, to include things like on-street parking, 25-mile-per-hour zones, and that's part of, I guess, what we provide for Hamilton County, providing incentive through the TIF in order for them to locate there. So I know that was a big, long explanation, but I've seen and I've heard snippets of things that are kind of contrary to that, and I wanted to provide the point and the background and where it comes from. Mr. Solomon, did I fairly represent that? Is that?
It sounds like something I would write.
There you go. Mr. Mills, did I fairly represent the financial part, I think?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I just want to confirm what Matt's concern is. This TIF we are giving solely on single-family homes.
Yes. It would be contingent upon, right now, the developer, it is possible for the developer to construct, and it in fact was his desire to construct multifamily.
It's agreement with the residents. I spoke to the residents at the beginning that opposed this plan. Now they are supporting the plan, the TIF district, and the conditions. The builder will build a single-family homes and only the bridge will be built to connect to the Pippin Road, to come to Sovereign Road. We're not, there's a second phase we had agreed, and won't be like a thoroughfare.
No.
Won't be thoroughfare, it's be intersection. So I even spoke to the, some of the residents today, before I make a decision on this voting, and that's their understanding. So we want to keep up that promise, what we're going to deliver, that type of project.
This allows us to create a developer agreement, to negotiate a developer agreement that stipulates single-family homes only, that stipulates traffic calming designs such as knuckles in roads so that it is not a thoroughfare, that stipulates that the road remains a township road, not a county road. So yes, that's why we're doing the developer agreement, is to stipulate all of those things. We want X, Y, and Z.
I want to suggest, I don't know, this is not time, since we're talking about this, I lived in an apartment, lease crossing a long time ago in the Montfort Heights, right behind Kroger. They had a main entrance for the residents, people can come, but the exit, only the resident can access because the electric gate, each residents have the remote to open the gate. Something that you might need to suggest that'll control the traffic of flow only for the residents can have access to that. Something you may think about it.
I'll have to do some research on that. I'm not certain that you can gate a public road, but I will do some research on that. A lot of times those gated communities are private roads, but
Yeah.
I'll do the research on it and find out.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Yep. Thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Back at the beginning of your comments, Matt, please clarify, did you say the township couldn't own the street or the county couldn't, or?
It's since the 1970s that,
In Ohio.
what's that? In Ohio, yeah, it's the township that, the township doesn't own, but it's,
We have to take care of the maintenance.
right.
Right, but the
State.
street, but Sovereign Drive is owned by,
The county, if you go to
the county owns the right-of-way?
Yes, sir.
But the pavement and the gravel and the
have to
asphalt or
maintain it.
concrete,
We have to maintain.
okay, but the county owns it.
Yeah, if you look at, if it is platted out as its own parcel, you'll see that the owner is the Board of County Commissioners on all of our township streets. And that's why we have to go to them.
I think mine says Colerain Township Board of Trustees on it.
The
The street I personally live
no
on.
kidding. Well, I don't know.
Well, I
Yeah,
will
it was
look into
before
that.
1970.
I won't
Well, not for long.
I won't draw this out, but I'll have to check on that. Okay, was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye,
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a tax incentive agreement with the Northwest Local School District. Very much to Mr. Rajagopal's point and Mr. Unger's point, and Mr. Waller's point too. Mr. Rajagopal, you asked what the difference was between a 10-year and a 30-year TIF, and it requires, if we're going to do anything more than 10 years, it requires the buy-in of the school district. And in this case, we were able to negotiate with the school district, and this presents it's what's called a make-whole agreement, which means that the school district will benefit from the investment that the township is making in stimulating this economic development activity. The township, through the development agreement, will likely make an investment that catalyzes the increase in value, and the school district will be able to realize the full extent of that increase in value because of our catalytic investment by authorizing this tax incentive agreement. So as you mentioned, Mr. Unger, this is the result of great cooperation between the Northwest Local School District. I'm sure that they are very appreciative of the investment that we're going to make in that community that will result in more revenue for the public school district in Colerain Township.
So I would motion that we authorize the Township Administrator to execute the tax incentive agreement with the Northwest Local School District.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I think that their board has already approved it.
Yes, sir.
Because I think we were sent the minutes from their meeting that showed a 5-0 vote. And to my friends over there, this is just another example of the trustees making sure that the school district is kept whole on these things. And we've invited you to the table on every one of them. That's just wasn't the case before 2018. So Was there any other discussion?
I'd just like to add, Mr. President, that the calculations Mr. Weckbach did with this indicates that with the passage of this TIF, it would bring about $170,000, $180,000 a year annually, or annually to the school district, as opposed to the $690 they get from the unimproved land. So this is a big deal for the township. It's a big deal for the school district. It's a big deal for the community there too, to have these houses, these fine single-family homes built in that area.
And this does not reduce anybody's taxes. It's just that the township and the school district, the collection of the taxes is split between the township and the school district. And in our portion, we're using it to improve the area so that the houses can be built. I
Yes,
think
sir.
it's specifically to put a bridge over a water feature, or over a waterway that's back there.
That's exactly right.
And so nobody's getting a tax cut or a tax break. It's just that the money that's collected from that specific TIF district will go to make improvements within that specific TIF district, so that people understand that.
I always like to say, if you think of the tax bill that is owed by the property owner as a pie, the pie with a TIF and without a TIF is the exact same size. It's just that with a TIF, it's cut into two pieces, and without a TIF, it's cut into
Well, Matt, you like pie?
15
There
or
you
16
go.
or
You had
many
me at
pieces.
pie.
Right, so we get more pie. is what I'm saying.
Okay, was there any other discussion?
I think we need Colerain Township more single-family homes. We need to build more residential homes. And not only what this homes starting about $200,000 homes,
Oh, more than that. Yeah.
more than that. I think that's a need. The only way we can, any opportunity we get, let's build the Colerain Township with single-family homes.
Yes, sir.
Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. Items C and items D, items C, D, and F in administration are not time-sensitive and can all be tabled to the September 8th meeting.
I'm sorry, C through F?
C, D, and F. I'll reserve E.
Okay. I'll motion to table C, D, and F to September 8th meeting.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. Item E in administration is a resolution adopting amended appropriations. The recommendation is approval of a resolution for amended appropriations in the amount of $38,471,007.74. This is to correct an error, a spreadsheet error that resulted in several incorrect numbers at the last appropriation. So this is a cleanup resolution for amended appropriations.
I would motion that we adopt the amended appropriations.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
So this is the error with the TIF.
Yes,
Part
there,
of it.
there were several numbers that were wrong in several funds.
Okay.
And there is nothing that is changing how, all of the things that we were talking about the last meeting carry. It's
The
just a-
cells exported it
it's a
wrong.
spreadsheet wrong,
Yeah,
yep.
okay, I got you.
Was there any other discussion?
None.
Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. All the other items, there is an item of old business and the consent agenda items. Those are not time sensitive and can be tabled to September 8th.
So, let me ask you one thing before we move to this. There is no number on the consent items, the TransUnion contract and also contract police pest control, is the number published?
I think those were in
Agenda?
the agenda. They're in the
Packet.
electronic
amount?
packet.
You know what? I'm looking at my agenda packet and I don't see those in there. I apologize.
The thing with the pest control company was in the
Oh, here it is.
electronic agenda.
Here it is.
I think it's all in there.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think you're right.
Would you guys read tomorrow, write it down? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What's the
and-
TransUnion, please?
And those will be on the idea is that those will be on the next agenda also,
Right.
but the number is $275 plus tax. No, wait a minute.
But 200?
In consideration for the services to be provided by ARAB, the customer agrees to pay ARAB or their successors and assign a sums of $275 plus tax for the initial service and $85 a month.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, how about let's talk about item 10 for a minute and go ahead and, I would motion that we table old business item 10A.
I'll second that.
The tabling of old business item 10A has been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
And then item 11, consent items. They sound reasonably small. Do you want to just, I mean,
Sure,
having
yeah,
the
yeah,
pest
sure.
control contract and the investigative data services, probably something that would be better to have.
Okay, and these are contracts that, remember that contracts that are on the consent agenda are contracts that you have already delegated the authority to the administrator to sign because they're less than $10,000.
Right.
And so they've been signed, and the reason that they're on the consent agenda is because we believe that transparency is important and letting people know what we are doing. So these have been signed, and I'm looking at the TransUnion contract. It is in the amount of,
And while you're looking, those are in our electronic agenda because I saw them in there when I reviewed this on Friday.
this is a subscriber agreement. So this appears to be non-pecuniary, if you will. And this was signed while I was on vacation, so I apologize, I'm not familiar with it.
I don't know, I'm still thinking about that word pecuniary.
Yeah,
To go look that up.
that's that Latin for
Yeah,
Walnut
the
Hills.
TransUnion, which I have here on the screen, is for Colerain Police with Mike Stockmeyer, detective, and it's just an agreement signed on August 14th by Jeff Weckbach that we accept the terms and conditions.
Yeah, so there's zero, it appears there's zero cost. It's a subscriber agreement and application.
Right, and it's right here, advertised in the agenda that's available to the public. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
So I'll motion to accept the consent items A, B, and C as provided in the meeting packet.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? And I'm going to have the one up for Arab Pest Control right here.
How much is that?
That one is for a monthly contract with quarterly payments, and it looks like it says $275 plus tax for initial service, biweekly $85. No, it looks like this was approved for
no,
monthly, which is $85 on item 3 payment. In consideration for the service to be provided by Arab, the customer agrees to pay its successors or assigns a sum of $275 plus tax for the initial service and $85 a month, and that's for the service. And then it says $110 quarterly for if it's needed instead of, for other prevention if it's needed instead of a monthly. So if we would need additional service, but it's clearly right here in the agenda and available for people to see.
Yes, sir.
So was there any other discussion?
None.
What was the $200 donation was from, that's probably on here also?
It's from Citizens for Civic Renewal, I believe. Jeff Steck, who is facilitating our community outreach for our comprehensive plan, received a grant to compensate himself for this work because it is, that's his profession. He received a grant, and he's passing along $200 to the planning department of that grant to publicize the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan meetings.
Right, and that's right here in the
Yes, sir.
printed, or the agenda that's available for anyone to see. So that would be the 3 items. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote on approval of the consent items.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
And the next item is fiscal office report.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I have no report tonight.
And the next item, then, thank you, Mr. Baker. The next item is executive session, which I don't believe, do you think we need one, Matt or Raj?
No.
Okay, and then the next item is a motion for adjournment, and before I make that, once again, I would just like to thank everybody in the community that has expressed their condolences and for Jason Haynes and for his family and his coworkers. And when details become available of what's to happen in the next few days, I would expect that we'll hear those from our Administrator, Jeff Mills. And with that, I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Baker, please call for a vote.
Mr. Rajagopal? Aye. Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
This meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees is adjourned at 8:06 p.m. on Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. Thank you.